One summer, Doopy's boyfriend invited her to a fair. She wanted to break up with him because he never really paid attention to her, plus she thought he may have been cheating. While they were at the fair, they went on the biggest ride they had, a roller coaster. But before going to the fair, Doopy made a sign that said, "I'm breaking up with you, bye-bye." While they were on the roller coaster, as soon as the part of the ride came up where they took the picture, Doopy held up the sign and yelled in his ear,
"I'm breaking up with you, bitch!"
Doopy smiled at the camera as they went down the slope. When the ride was over, she went to see the picture. She saw herself smiling while holding up the sign, and the angry look on her boyfriend's face. She bought the picture.
When James Shark was in first grade, he had a huge crush on this girl in his class named Allison. But it wasn't just a normal crush. It was an 8-year-old crush, which meant that he did everything to try and impress her. One time in science class, they were in group of 4, and the topic of jail came up. Without thinking, James Shark yelled out, "I've been to prison before!" Needless to say, she wasn't impressed, and his mom found out.
In Dolan's dream, robots had taken over the world, Terminator style. Dolan's dad came to him, telling him that their family cat was the key to saving humankind. His dad didn't tell him why, but she was the key to the survival of humans, and Dolan had to protect her. As he was carrying the lazy fat cat that was somehow humankind's salvation, he randomly found himself snowboarding. This itself was strange, as he had never been snowboarding before. He got off the board and scurried into a treehouse that resembled a church. There, he was told that he had somehow saved humankind. Even in the context of his dream, he was totally baffled.
When it comes to eating, Nixium's brother has some very strange taste. He's completely addicted to barbecue sauce and maple syrup, and won't eat anything unless it's covered in them. He'll put maple syrup and barbecue sauce on anything. Eggs, fries, cereal, cookies, or even pizza. He's so addicted that he has an entire cupboard full of maple syrup and barbecue sauce in his room. If he ever ran out of sauce or syrup, Nixium's brother say he'd rather starve than resort to eating food without them.
I don't really have any interesting breakup stories, however I have had one awkward rejection kind of story. So back before YouTube, I was doing a writing course and there was this girl that I could never talk to as to, oh god, I don't want to make a fool out of myself. So after months and months, I eventually worked up the courage to ask her out to the movies, and she said yes, and that was great. And then I went home, and then I got a message from her that said, "It might not work because my best friend likes you and has been dropping hints that you haven't gotten." And at that stage, I was like, "Oh shit! Oh fuck!" Because then immediately I was like, "No, the hints! I didn't know. I was too busy focusing on this girl. I didn't realize her friend was talking to me a lot. Oh no!" So immediately I was like, I messed up. I did end up dating her friend, but it didn't last very long, unfortunately. It's just one of those times, it's like, rats! Like, the hints. You just don't get the hints that are really obvious. It just sucks.
Between the ages of 5 and 14, Slaptam was put through mental and physical abuse from others in his class. The people stayed the same, but the numbers grew. One person who bullied him all through that time lodged the door of a toilet stall shut while Slaptam was still inside. He believes they lodged the mechanism shut with a penny or a piece of gum. Either way, it couldn't be opened from either side. They also stuck an out of order sign on the door to the toilets so nobody would go in and find him. He was there for 3 hours and his parents were called because of his absence. Teachers were looking for him and eventually a teacher heard his cries and found him. They also couldn't open the door, so they had to get someone to unscrew the hinges to let him out. Slaptam was sent home and hasn't used a public toilet since.
Nixium usually goes to his friend Helbin, who is slightly older than him, for advice. One thing he learned the hard way was that he sucks with girls. One day, Nixium asked,
"Hey, Hellbent, do you have a good pickup line?"
Helbin said,
"Just pull down your underwear and say, 'Let's fuck' a few times until they give you a blowjob."
That advice literally made him sit down for hours, wondering what mental condition Helbin had or what drugs he might be on. It was so cringy and weird.
When Pringle was in junior high, he got picked on every day by a mean, bigger kid. Instead of fighting back, Pringle told the vice principal about his situation. The vice principal said there wasn't anything he could do because the bullying was occurring after hours and wasn't on school grounds. Pringle was out of options, so he was forced to take matters into his own hands. He fought the kid and ended up getting suspended because apparently, the safe school policy counts until the student arrives home. The school wouldn't help Pringle when he was being bullied, but they were happy to suspend him the moment he stood up for himself. Fortunately, Pringle's parents put legal pressure on the school district and they reduced the assault charges against him to disorderly conduct and then wiped it from his record a year later.
Mimi was staying at her boyfriend's house one night and she thought everything was going great between them. In the middle of the night, she really needed to go to the bathroom and noticed her boyfriend wasn't next to her. She shrugged, walked to the bathroom, opened the door, and was shocked at what she saw. Mimi's sister was in there, getting it on with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend yelled, "Get out, we're done!" then pushed Mimi out of the house while he was completely naked.
One day when Princess Proton was 14, she got home from school and felt a weird pain in her stomach area. She ran to the bathroom and discovered that she just started her first period. In a panic, Princess Proton called the number she thought was her mom's and said, "Hi, Mom. Yeah, I know you're at work, but I just started my period, and I don't know what to do." Then she realized she had called her girlfriend's mom, who was in her contacts under Mrs. Mom. Princess Proton quickly apologized, and her friend's mom understood and said, "Hey, I was ready to run up to the store and buy you pads." Princess Proton thanked her and hung up, and then called her real mom.
I've always been a little worried about driving trucks or vans under bridges. Crashing into a bridge because your car is too big, it's a pretty scary thought. I've had scrapes in car parks and stuff like that, but I'll always remember watching the top of a truck getting torn off by a low rail bridge in Melbourne. It's probably made my paranoia worse. This is one menace of a bridge though. In fact, it's got its own Facebook page because it destroys so many trucks. Gergak took a vacation to Texas to see his dad and stepmom several years ago. They went to a park one day and Gergak went back to the car to get some snacks for a picnic. When he came back, he saw his stepbrother drop his pants and start peeing right in the middle of a huge crowd. As if that wasn't bad enough, his brother thought it would be funny to spin around while doing it. Luckily, Gergak was far away and didn't get embarrassed because nobody knew he was related. Though he felt really bad for the people who had to run to try and dodge the piss.
On his first day of 9th grade, Spinal Palm watched as two boys, Mikhailum and Gergak, began to fight at lunch. They pushed and punched each other, cursing and knocking over tables. The principal came by and broke it up. They made everyone go to class early, even though Spinal Palm wasn't done eating. While walking up the stairs to go to class, Spinal Palm asked one of the other students if he knew what the fight was about. The student said, "No, those boys are fighting over a carton of milk." Apparently Gergak took Mikhailum's milk thinking it was his. They got into an argument, then a fist fight. Two students ended up beating each other up over a carton of milk, which was free, with lunch.
When Hellbent was young, him and his mom were going uptown to get a new game. They were sitting on the train that would take them uptown when Hellbent got really freaked out. He saw someone on the train who looked exactly like him. He had the same long black hair, the same brown eyes, same lips, and even the same clothes. The doppelganger also freaked out. After they both got off the train, Hellbent asked his mom,
Mom, was that my lost twin?"
His mother then jokingly replied with, "Oh my, I think that was your lost twin. Quick, let's go get him." And after that day, he never saw his twin again.
Sidious's cringiest school memory happened on the last day of the school year. The whole school was in the auditorium listening to boring speeches when suddenly the entire 5th grade came on stage to give a surprise hip-hop performance. Sidious's jaw dropped as a tidal wave of cringe swept over him. The 5th graders were performing the Flo Rida song, My House, except they rewritten the lyrics to be about school life. They called it My School. There was bad rapping and cheesy choreographed dancing. It was like an awkward, beautiful car crash. Sidious had never facepalmed so hard in his whole life.
When Mikhailum was in 8th grade, he had a huge crush on a girl in his class. Since it was nearing the end of the school year, he decided to confess his feelings for her. He tried to say, "I love you like bees love honey." Instead, what came out was, "I love you like strippers love money." His crush stood there, shocked. Everyone in the cafeteria laughed while Mikhailum just stood there. He ran into the bathroom with his friends following him. After graduation, he found out that she had been dating a high schooler. When Spinal Palm was younger, he was hanging out with a group of friends one day. They wanted to use a bike ramp, but they didn't have one. So they had the not-so-dumb idea of making one out of sheetwood and concrete blocks. Spinal Palm watched as a couple of his friends built the bike ramp on the street. When it was finished, his friends proceeded to jump their bikes. Gravity can be a funny thing. They didn't take into account that if they're 5 or 6 feet in the air, it'll hurt a little bit once they land on the asphalt. Both of his friends got a free lesson in physics, with one of them breaking his arm and losing a tooth. And his other friend, he flew straight into a clothesline, severely bruising his neck. Kinda lucky when you think about it. Despite the injuries, his friends were fine, and now they just laugh about it. And now we laugh about it too.
When Nixium was in high school, this guy tended to pick on him for no real reason. One day he pushed Nixium completely out of the blue and he pushed him back. Then with no warning, the bully punched him above his left eye and he fell backwards. Nixium was bigger and stronger than his bully, so he could have easily beaten him to the ground, but he decided to be the bigger man and walk away. Later on, after he told the teacher what had happened, the bully apologized and never picked on him again. Although he does still kinda regret not punching him back at least once.
Helbin had a crush on a girl at his school. He didn't know much about her, but overheard her talking with her friends about how she loves scary movies, scary video games, and anything with gore in it. So he decided to anonymously send her a box, which contained the entrails of a pig. He watched while he smiled as she opened the box of blood and intestines, hoping she would love it. She didn't. In fact, she ran away vomiting and screaming. Unfortunately, she found out that Helbin was a mystery sender and never spoke to him again. There's just no pleasing some people.
When Emoji was very young, he lived in a house with his cousins and their son. His cousin was a very hyperactive child and had the tendency to take off his diaper and run around in the nude. One time, he stood in front of Emoji's mom and stared at her directly in the eyes with a blank expression on his face as he whipped out his wiener and peed all over the carpet. It wasn't funny at the time, but luckily they can laugh about it now.
Zaraganba was bored one day and wanted to go upstairs. He rolled off the couch, laid down on his back, grabbed his iPad and Wendy's burger, then started scooting his way to the stairs on his back, yelling,
Making my way downtown, walking fast, faces pass.
Suddenly, his mom cut him off. Zaraganba had forgotten that she was sitting on the couch because he was so into scooting his way to the stairs.
Gooby and her sister Snoopy worked at Burger King. Snoopy worked the counter while Gooby worked the drive-thru. One night, a man came in and demanded a coffee and a bagel. When Snoopy rang up the order, the man got furious because he said that he gave her a coupon for everything to be free. Snoopy looked around but didn't see a coupon anywhere. She told him that he never gave her a coupon and would have to pay. The man stomped to the dining area and smashed a chair against the floor, demanding his free meal. He then pulled out a beer and chugged it. That was when Gooby rushed to the front and told the man to calm down while Snoopy called the police. He continued to scream and throw things around, even splashing Gooby with some of his beer. When the police arrived, the man bit Gooby's arm and spat in her face. After the ordeal, their supervisor let them go home for the night.
One day, during a game of Truth or Dare at lunch, Spincess's crush Tolop told her it would be funny if someone danced on the school lunch tables. Spincess thought about it, and the next day she came to school with the radio. At lunch, Spincess played the songs Treat You Better and Despacito. Once Tolop was watching, she got up and danced on the table. While she was dancing, she slipped and fell on another kid who pushed Tolop in order to save himself. Tolop got his face pushed into a plate of mashed potatoes next to him, and then got beat up by the school bully for stealing his lunch. So now Tolop hates her and says a rock could have treated him better.
One day when James Shark was 9 years old, he went to a balloon festival with his parents. He was wearing a shark jacket that he zipped all the way up because it was freezing that day. A man in his 20s walked up to him and tapped him on the shoulder. The man asked, "Hey, could you scare my kid, dude?" James Shark was given a $20 bill, so he gladly scared the man's kid. It was the most money he ever got at a festival.
What's the weirdest piece of advice I've ever gotten? Well, this one was pretty fucking weird. someone I know at school said to me, the best way to prank someone is to wait for them to fall asleep, then reach into your pants, slide your finger into your butthole, grab some of that, feces, and rub it under their nose. They'll wake up and they'll smell shit, and they won't know why or how or where or how to get rid of it. And they laughed. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, no, I'm good. I'm actually good. I don't really want to finger my own butthole, but hey, great prank, bro. You should start a YouTube channel. And, all about the butt reaching. That'll go down great.
The weirdest thing Slapped Ham ever saw at his friend's house was when he was in the 5th grade. One day after school, he had a weird friend who invited him over. Not wanting to hurt his feelings, Slapped Ham accepted. Once they were inside his house, his friend asked, "Do you want to see my goldfish?" Slapped Ham said yes, but instead of showing him a fishbowl, his friend reached into the closet and pulled out a dead goldfish. Slapped Ham never saw him again.
Emoji once won 2 free meals at a fancy restaurant, so he decided to invite the girl of his dreams. The only problem was that his crush was a twin, and he mistakenly invited the wrong one. He was pretty surprised when he got to the restaurant and they both turned up. He decided to play it cool but ended up paying for the extra meal anyways. After the meal, he told them about the mix-up and had to let one of them down. The dumped twin was pretty upset, but luckily she ended up forgiving him a few weeks later.
One night at the bar, I was taking out the garbage. Not my favorite thing to do. Those bags weigh upwards of 60, 70 pounds, and you gotta huck them over into the dumpster. So as I was prepping the bags up, getting ready to huck them in the dumpster, a customer approached me drunkenly and offered to help. I politely rejected the offer because it's a lot more difficult and dangerous than it looks. So he was insisting and insisting, begging for me to let him help, and I figured, well, this is getting agitating. I'll just let him lend me a hand, why not? Now, right off the bat, I warned him, these are very heavy, you need to be very careful when you throw them, and they're full of glass and liquid. Be careful. The first one he hucks at the dumpster manages to land in, and I'm thinking, hey, maybe this isn't so bad. But he kinda overshot his second throw, and the garbage bag landed on the rim of the dumpster. I told the guy, hold on, let me go get a broom so I can push that into the dumpster. Don't worry about it, this is very easy, no big deal. He immediately says in a very drunken voice, don't worry about this, man. I got it, it's no problem. I immediately turned around from trying to grab the broom to try to stop him from doing what I knew he was gonna do. But I was too late. He tried to push in the garbage bag using his bare hands, keeping in mind these are full of broken glass. His hands got lacerated with little tiny shards of broken glass stuck in his fingers. I had to spend the next 20 minutes picking little slivers of glass out of his hands, sanitizing them, and wrapping them up like he's a fucking mummy. From then on, I never accepted any help from people wanting to do the garbage. It's just too fucking dangerous. Doopy's ex made a fake Instagram account under the name of her current boyfriend. Posing as her boyfriend, Doopy's ex asked for nudes, and Doopy agreed, thinking they were going to her boyfriend. The next day, everybody Doopy knew had copies of her nude pictures because her ex had sent them to everybody on Snapchat. As if that wasn't bad enough, her ex started to send Doopy dick pics through the fake account. So, to get revenge, Doopy posted those pics on her Snapchat, and everybody picked on him for the rest of the year because of his fun-size equipment.
When Honeybits was in 2nd grade, she saw these 2 kids in her class get into a fight during gym class. When they kept yelling at each other, the teacher sent one of them to the corner all the way on the other side of the room. They continued to make faces at each other from across the room, which wasn't so bad until the one in the corner of the room flipped off the one sitting with the class. This resulted in the kid sitting with Honeybits and the rest of the class running over to him. They started hurting each other, and the other teachers made the whole class go into the hall while she broke up the fight. Then she took the 2 out of the hall with the rest of the class. One of the kids told the teacher,
"You called me a jackbutt."
To which the other kid replied, "I don't call you a jackbutt. I called you a jackass." The teacher yelled at him for swearing, and they both went to the principal's office and got suspended. Honeybits doesn't remember exactly what they were fighting about, just that it was something really stupid. The fact that this is the way it ended was hysterical to her.
When he was 10, Dolan was in bed playing Pokemon while his babysitter was downstairs. He had to pee, so he went to the bathroom. At the time, Dolan wasn't that smart or clean, so he peed a little bit on the toilet seat. 2 hours later, he went to bed. Later on, Dolan woke up because he needed to pee again. When he walked into the bathroom, he saw the babysitter licking the toilet seat. She just sat there, staring at him. After that, Dolan just ended up peeing in a cup in his room. He tried telling his parents, but they didn't believe him. Until a couple of nights later when they caught the babysitter eating their cat's fur. After all that, she was fired. Sweet Commando and his friend were playing Truth or Dare, and Sweet Commando chose Dare. I mean, that's kinda obvious, right? The Dare was to blast porn audio out loud in the talent show by connecting to the Bluetooth speakers. The Dare was sweetened with a $15 bet, and his name is Sweet Commando, so we accepted. He got to the talent show early to prepare and connect to the speaker. The first act to go on was a group of 5 girls singing Call Me Maybe. When they started singing, Sweet Commando connected to the speaker and started playing the porn audio. Everyone in the talent show started laughing like crazy. The next day, Sweet Commando's friend gave him the $15 and everything went back to normal. But in 4th period, the loudspeaker came on saying that the school bully had to go to the principal's office. It turned out the bully was suspended for 2 weeks because he told his friends that he set up the talent show prank to impress them.
Shortly before his graduation ceremony in 1980, Ghost Toast had a separate ceremony in the auditorium for students who had won scholarships and school awards. This included speeches from various teachers. Ghost Toast's music teacher was among them. A classical musician, he was a pretty straight-laced guy. He started his speech, and he showed them all an electric guitar he had with him. He started playing, just like he usually did, classically. Then he suddenly said, "But you all more likely expected this." He then proceeded to shred, like the spirit of Eddie Van Halen had just possessed him. Everybody in that auditorium gave him a round of applause.
Pringle once went on a date to a teppanyaki restaurant. You know, the places where they cook the food in front of you. Things were going well, and Pringle was doing everything he could to impress the girl. But unfortunately, the guy working the grill was new. He went to do his little trick of throwing the shrimp into Pringle's mouth, but the shrimp ignited mid-toss. Pringle didn't catch it, but it landed on his shirt and immediately caught fire. Pringle started panicking, forgot he was supposed to roll around on the ground, and instead he just ripped off all his clothes. Fortunately, he managed to avoid getting permanently scarred, but sadly, he didn't get a second date.
One time, Ghost Toast and his family went hunting for hog. So here Ghost Toast and his pop were, sitting in a tree, when these 2 deers walked right underneath them. Since the day was coming to a close and they were meant to head back home in the next hour, they decided, hey, better than nothing, and shot the 2 does. They got their buddies to help them take the deer to the truck. Then Ghost Toast and his pop drove as fast as they could down the dirt roads, trying not to get pulled over by a game warden or a police officer. This was about 3 months before deer season, so basically they just poached Bambi's mother and aunt. So far, they've only poached one other time, and that was when they ran over a buck about 3 weeks ago and shot it in the head to make sure it was dead. Ghost Toast and his pop got caught that time, but the cop let them off because, well, they hit the buck with a truck. The thing was practically dead already. Andy once performed in a theater production of A Christmas Carol. Her part required her to wear a lot of different costumes and do quick changes between the scenes. So at the end of each scene, Andy would have to run into the dressing room and quickly change in front of this little child actor. On one of the last shows of the season, Andy raced into the dressing room for the final costume change. She yanked down her tights and grabbed her new outfit. That's when she saw a little boy was staring at her. Andy looked down and saw that she pulled down her underwear by mistake. Andy pulled them back up and tried to not die of embarrassment. The little kid just smiled and said, "I love the theater."
One Halloween, Ghost Toast collected a big bag of candy and he hid it in his closet. Each day, he suspected that someone was stealing candy from his bag, so he booby-trapped his closet in order to find the culprit. He taped a party popper to the closet door, and he taped the string to an inside drawer. He was woken up in the middle of the night to hear his dad setting off the popper. He was caught sweet-handed.